The Bundoran Weekly is brought to you by AIB, supporting local businesses in Bundoran. For more, see aib.ie.
Hi everyone, it's Shane Smyth, Bundoran Tourism Officer. It is Friday the 11th of November and it is podcast episode 208 of the Bundoran Weekly, the podcast that talks about everything Bundoran. Got a bit of a cold and a little bit sniffly at the moment, so my voice isn't the same as it normally is, but anyway, we will plough on regardless. Coming up a little bit later on, going to be having a very interesting chat with local historian Anthony Begley and Val O'Kelly from the Magh Ene Historical Society. Tonight they are going to be launching the reprint of the very famous book Where the Erne and the Drowes Meet the Sea. It's a comprehensive history of Bundoran from the early ages up until about the 1960s, written by An Tahar Paddy O'Gallagher, and that is in reprint now, thanks to the guys at the Magh Ene Historical Society. And I had a chat with the two during the week, and a very interesting conversation it was as well, so we'll play that out for you very shortly. Teresa O'Neill will be with me as well from Bundoran Community Centre, as usual, in the Bundoran Community Corner. So we are into the middle of November. Things have settled down a little bit and quietened down a little bit. There's still plenty of things going on, and musically wise, we're going to start, as always, in the Allingham. Social dancing there tonight with Michael Cleary, and music with The Contractor. Tom Moran is there tomorrow evening in the Coolmore Bar from 9:15 till 11:15, and then Robert Mizell and the Country Kings in the ballroom then to wrap up your Saturday night. Eats and Beats with Mark Black on Sunday afternoon in Key West, and then Trevor Lockery in the Coolmore Bar from 7:30 until 9:30 on Sunday evening. Next door in the Bird's Nest tomorrow night, music with Colin Burke, and Matthew McManus is there on Sunday evening. And from Wednesday 16th of November they've got Modern Country Moves. It's 4 weeks of jiving classes, and that is happening on a Wednesday night at the Bird's Nest, as I said, starting from Wednesday next, the 16th of September. Chasing Bull tonight in this music with Gary Doherty, and Bang & Yokes are there tomorrow night. Usual trad session Sundays from 4 till 6 at George's Bar on the main street. Tonight at the Phoenix, it's Sean McBride. Happy Wanderers there tomorrow night, and JPK there this coming Sunday. Paul Simpson tomorrow night at the Railway Bar, and Paris nightclub is open as always on Saturday night as well. Now, if you'd prefer to head to the cinema, well, new out this week is the Black Panther 2, the follow-up to the massively successful movie from a couple of years ago. Number 2 is out this weekend, and no doubt that's going to be a very popular one. Missed it Monday. If you didn't get to see it when it was in the cinema, it is class. Elvis. I know a lot of people did get to see it when it was in the cinema, but it's your final chance for some time now to see it on the big screen again, and it's cheaper on Missed It Monday as well at Eclipse Cinema, and you can see that there. And what I think of it, went to see Banshees of Inisherin last weekend, and really a good show. A weird one, but a good one. Full schedule on our website, or indeed at eclipsecinemas.com. Big night tomorrow night at the Bundoran Community Centre. It is the Modal Citizens Local Music Showcase. It's a night of jazz, Irish trad, and music from banded country with Mehel, Mike Nielsen, Richard Nelson, Ronan Gallagher, and more special guests. Tickets from Eventbrite. You can search for Modal Citizens or on the door, and indeed we'll put the link to the tickets in our podcast show notes for this episode. And tonight, as we mentioned a little while ago, the launch of the Where the Erne and the Drowes Meet the Sea, the reprint, and that is on tonight at the Rogie Suite in Bundoran Community Centre tonight, Friday the 11th of November, and that is at 8 o'clock, and all are welcome to that. And if you fancy a little bit of theatre and comedy, well, by Pat Short is in the Abbey's Art Centre in Ballyshannon tomorrow night. It's Pat and Faye Short, and tickets are available at the abbeycentre.ie, so you can get those online, or indeed, no doubt, I'm sure you can get them on the door as well for Pat and Faye Short, well, at the Abbey Art Centre in Ballyshannon tomorrow night. It is the Bundoran Weekly with thanks to AIB.ie, supporting local businesses in Bundoran and Ballyshannon. Very shortly, going to be having a chat with Anthony Begley, local historian, and Val O'Kelly from the Magh Ene Historical Society. And we'll be talking to Teresa O'Neill in the Bundoran Community Centre in our Community Corner. It's all on the way next on the Bundoran Weekly.
The Bundoran Weekly.
I'm Shane Smyth, Bundoran Tourism Officer, and this is the Bundoran Weekly Podcast, episode 208. A book came out in 30 to 40 years ago called Where the Erne and the Drowes Meet the Sea, a comprehensive history at the time of the Bundoran, Ballyshannon and surrounding areas, and plenty of history there is, written by Father Paddy Gallagher. And it went out of print, but thanks to an initiative from the Magh Ene Historical Society here in Bundoran, they have reprinted it with permission, and it is on sale now. It gets its launch tonight, and I sat down earlier on this week with Val O'Kelly from the Magh Ene Historical Society, and also local historian for Anthony Begley. And I first asked him to tell me a little bit about who was Father Paddy Gallagher.
Yeah, thanks very much, Shane. Thanks for having us. And I'd like to, at the outset, to congratulate Val and the Magh Ene Historical Society for reprinting Father Paddy's book, because it's a classic local history book, and it's compact and it's very readable. And I think coming up to Christmas, it would be an ideal gift for people, and I think it should be very useful to people in primary schools and secondary schools in the area as well. But turning to Father Paddy from where we are now here in the tourist centre, or the just around the corner on Station Road is where he was born. Right. I think now, I could get corrected by somebody, but I think he is where Brian McAniff certainly was along where Brian is living now. And Father Paddy, as a young man, went to St. McCartan's in Monaghan, became a priest, and then set off on an adventure. He actually worked in the deserts in California for a number of years, and also worked for the U.S. Navy. He was a chaplain with them, and returned. I suppose he's starting to come more in our radar back here. Then he returned and taught for a number of years in Clones. And after that, he went to various places in the diocese, like Dromore. But he finished up in Derrygonley, not that far from here. Now, I would have come across him back in the 1970s, and he was a legend at that stage, a legend of local history, because he had very unique distinctions. I should have said that coming back from America, he had picked up the notion of credit unions, of self-help for people, and he was the first president ever of a credit union, of the national body of credit unions. And whenever they had world conferences in America, Father Paddy was the one who went. Really? And he was, now you often hear of people paying lip service to it. He went everywhere in Ireland to promote the credit union movement. But another unique distinction that he had is being in the Clogher diocese, as you are here, and as I am on the Rock in Ballyshannon. He got involved with Clogher Historical Society, and he became the editor of their annual, the Clogher Record, and he also was the secretary of the Clogher Historical Society. And like anybody who gets the back issues of that annual, it's full of articles by Father Paddy. And uniquely then, he's the only person ever to have been secretary or president of the Donegal Historical Society as well. Right. So he actually had the leading role in both the Clogher Record and the Donegal Annual, and he was an outstanding influence on me. And I suppose if I were to talk just talk about him, I remember there was a British military or a Dublin Military History Society that came here to Bundoran. And I was on the bus with them, and Father Paddy was there, and Father Paddy got on the bus and proceeded to launch into, he was a very enthusiastic man, and not a note kind. And I was sitting beside one of these distinguished gentlemen from Dublin, and he was saying, that man hasn't got a note kind there. And I says, he's got it all inside his head. But he was very, very infectious. If you had him today now, you would notice the enthusiasm bouncing out of him. So basically, that's the man that he was.
So suppose you said that he had all this stuff in his head, and I presume at some point he said, I better write all this down. Absolutely.
And he's probably, I would say he's the most prolific local historian, I'd say, if you took in Clogher and Donegal. And like, all I have to do is look up the back issues of the Donegal Annual, which are available now. By the way, they're actually brought out, reprinted as well, like right. Father Paddy's book. So, and also in the Clogher Record. It's mind-boggling. I remember asking him, how did you ever get the time, Father? You know, when he was in his parish, where in Fintan, or as he finished up in Derrygonley, and he said Oh yeah, I used to go to Dublin for the day, and I'd go into the National Library, and I'd stay there until they put me out. And I'd say, would you not come out for something to eat? No, he said, I'd bring a bar of chocolate with me. So he was a real dedicated historian. And as you say, we were chatting earlier, things like Google and that were beyond him. I mean, they hadn't been invented. But it's it's amazing the amount of sources that he has, even in this compact book where Erne and Dryas meet the sea.
So he would have gone to the National Library. He would have gone all over to do his research.
Oh,
for
absolutely.
The book,
yeah. And he was a great networker. He was great. He was a great people's person. Like, he liked nothing better than a chat. Mm-hmm. And very, very modest, unassuming. For a man who carried such knowledge, he carried it lightly. He even calls this his little book, right. And that hopefully somebody in the future would, as he says in the preface, would do a fully fledged history of it. But I reckon if the likes of Father Paddy hadn't... By the way, he calls himself Padre Go Gallagher. He always went by the Irish name. But when you met him, everybody talked about Father Paddy. But if he hadn't put down what he put down on paper... I suppose the way I'd put it to you, Shane, I remember when I joined the Donegal Historical Society back in the 70s. I remember sitting beside him one time, and it's not that he'd be giving out to you, but he'd be trying to egg you on. He says, young fellas like you, he said, should be writing history. And I would have said, well, I don't have much to write about Father. Well, he says, go and find something out. He says, write it down. And he says, let somebody else add to it or take from it, or otherwise it'll be lost. And what I'm looking at in this book here, where Erne and Dryas meet the sea, there's a lot of little gems in that book that would be totally lost if he hadn't have written them down.
He was ahead of his time.
He was way ahead of his time, you know.
So the book is called Where the Erne and Dryas Meet the Sea. So it's basically the two rivers, and that in the space in between. So you're talking Bundoran, Ballyshannon, Kinloch, that kind of area.
That's
and
right.
Plenty of history there is. What era does it start at? Or?
Oh, it starts way back in Celtic times.
Right.
Part along the first settlers landed over at Ballyshannon. And I suppose it goes right up to what would have been modern times, as in terms of the 1960s, up to his time. There's some fabulous accounts. I mean, he had the public right away, but he has that in here. He has how Bundoran developed as a town, and he has anything from the Black Pig's Dyke to goodness knows anything you could conceivably, St. Patrick and the whole history of religion in the area. And I should say, it also takes in where I live, St. Joseph's on the Rock, because he saw that as, obviously, it's all part of the same parish, the Magh Ene parish.
It sounds like a fascinating read. I actually have a previous copy of one of the original copies, but I've never actually sat down and read it. So this is now my excuse to sit down and read it, and it's really great to see it back in print. And I suppose there's an opening there for somebody to go from the 1960s and do the next section.
Absolutely, and I have a copy.
Not pointing at you, Anthony, or anything.
I have a copy. I have a copy of it as well, and the price at the time in 1961 was 7 and 6pence. But with inflation and things that's moved on, it's still coming in relatively cheap, and I think it'd make a great gift. I should say that it was printed in Ballyshannon by the Donegal Democrat, because his great friend was Cecil King.
Of course, yes.
Cecil King Senior, and he were bosom pals, But he was great fun, and he brought a great sense. I mean, at any time, he brought history alive, and yet he had it all. He had all the sources. He had research. He never, one that's in there, and it'll stand the test of time. He took on all the forces in Ireland over where the Annals of the Four Masters were written, and he.
Still a big mystery, I think.
It won't be a mystery for anybody who buys this book, because
what's such a tease?
I said, I can still hear him saying, "Where was it written? Egg Drosh." He'd be saying, and if you say, "But where?" And basically, it'll be very interesting to anybody living in Magh or that. I'll not spoil a good story by saying any more, but he pinpoints it back to there. Now, it led to the biggest, I would say, one of the biggest debates, I suppose, debates about the four masters ever. And I can assure you that Father Paddy Gallagher was well able to hold the line
court,
against. No, there were people who took his side, and there were people who said no, it was somewhere else. But anybody who wants a good contentious argument, it's there.
Val O'Kelly from Magh Ene Historical Society will turn to you, and congratulations first of all on taking the initiative to reprint the book. Reprinting a book, no mean feat, and I know it's been on the agenda for a long time, and it was on the agenda well before COVID and whatever, but it's great to be able to finally hold it in your hand and have this really brilliant version of history of Bundoran back in the public domain again.
Yes, indeed, Shane, yeah, and I'm glad you acknowledged it took a while. We're very small, Magh Ene is a very small local historical society with members from Bundoran and Ballyshannon. And we usually produce historical calendars every year, but they were out of old photographs we had, but we were running out of old photographs for calendars, and calendars are running out of themselves, I think. So we've been talking for a while, as you said, about reprinting Father Paddy's book. So it took a little bit of while to get. Last year was the 60th year, and we missed that. Okay. You know, and with COVID and one thing and another, it took a little while to put all the ducks in a row, because reprinting a book.
How does that work, Val? How do you go
can
about
I
it?
ask you a question? How do these men like Anthony Begley write books and publish them? We were only publishing it. It took a while to find out exactly where the place was to go, and it turned out to be the Clare Historical Society. And they met and agreed that they would let us reprint. And of course, we were absolutely religious. It's been reprinted exactly in its entirety, with just an updated forward from ourselves. And but we were held up ourselves with meetings and not being able to have meetings and things. It wasn't just that, do you know? So eventually, anyway, as I said, we missed last year. We also missed Heritage Week this year, but we eventually got it. It took a while to print it and get it proofread and all that goes along with, I suppose, printing a book, you know, or reprinting a book. So that's what took. But we're delighted that we've got there, you know, and it's been very well received. It's in all the local retail shops, and it's been very well received. And I suppose it's never too late to produce a document like this, do you know? Father Paddy refers to it as a fragments, as he says, of a patrician parish, but we call it the definitive work, because I think there's no other work of the same, but he was very modest in his. But what
I think even from listening to Anthony talking, he was very modest.
Oh yes, he was very modest, humble, but did wonderful work. Even the maps and stuff that are in it, and the town lands and the meanings of the town lands. It was a wonderful social history, you know, and the engravings on the graveyard and the old families that were there and what they meant. And there was one gentleman, I think, and he said he was in, forgotten his name now, but he was in Stonyhurst in England, which was a large Jesuit college, I think, in England. He said he was the only one from Bundoran in Stonyhurst, that sort of stuff, you know, so it's extremely interesting. But it's the legacy that we wanted to leave, you know, of what we would love to see from here on in as a historical society. We're not, none of us are historians, but we're interested in history, is the follow-on from it. There's part two. Yeah. There's a huge piece of work there for someone else on updating it, and also, you know, projects for children and stuff out of the lovely maps and the whole social history of the area. It's tremendous what could be taken out. So we hope the schools will take it up.
That was one of the things I was going to ask you. Is that's one of your hopes that the schools will
absolutely yes, that the children would take it up, and that the teachers would encourage it, because there's a huge amount of material there that they can build on in a modern sense, do you know?
And it's very important for the school-going kids, be the national school or secondary school, to know their local history as well. Like we're all taught the national stuff, but generally, you know, and no harm to Anthony, I know you were a local teacher here, but I suppose the more intricate local stuff is not really taught in schools.
It isn't. No, it is. I suppose that's to do with the curriculum. I'm not sure. But sure, it begins with local history. Certainly the interest, it begin with local history. And just to say to you, we have one other historian from the Magh Ene parish as well, and that's Declan O'Carroll. Yes, Declan was also, so there was two descendants, if you like, or two people that took on Father Paddy's work and wrote about things locally, or built on it, like they wrote separate. Declan's document is on Finner Camp, of course, and so that's our hope, So all we were doing is making sure the legacy, it would be lost, you see.
Yeah.
The books were so hard to get, and if we didn't reprint it, it would be lost forever. So that's our aim.
And who should get this book?
Everybody. Because everybody that's interested in Bundoran or the general area, it's absolutely lovely read, It's written almost for the layman.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? It's not it's an everyday
not in historical
thing.
jargon.
Yes, it is, or academic jargon, although I think he was very eminent in his own right. I'm not sure, was it Celtic Studies he did, was it? Or was it he did the degree in Celtic Studies, I think, in when he was in Maynooth, but that's gone now. But he was a huge expert, as Anthony's outlined very well. So it really is a very enjoyable one and very readable, and a wonderful, as Anthony said, a wonderful Christmas present because it's postable.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
It's exactly the right size.
Yes.
So as this podcast goes out, the launch is happening tonight, Friday. But anybody listening after that, the book is available in loads of different outlets around Bundoran and Ballyshannon.
Yes. And the launch is in the community centre, in the Rogie Suite in the community centre.
Perfect. And it's very reasonably priced, I believe.
Yes, €15. Yes.
Great.
Yes.
€15 for a couple of centuries worth of history. Of Bundoran. It's
Yes.
not too bad a price to pay.
Yes.
Listen, Val, congratulations again to you and the team at the Magh Ene Historical Society. It's a fantastic project, and it's great to have it back, and I really hope that myself included and a lot of people will read it and start to understand the history. And I'm sure there's a bit about the tourism in there as well that is brought up as well. So it's going to be an interesting read and a really great gift for Christmas as well. So thank you, and Anthony, thanks indeed for coming in today as well.
And thank you, Shane. Thank you very much for having us.
The Bundoran Weekly.
Val, Anthony, thank you for that. Certainly looking forward to reading that book and educating myself a little bit more about the history of the town. It is the Bundoran Weekly. Let us move now to Bundoran Community Centre, and in our community corner is Teresa.
Thanks, Shane. The Youth Hangout is back. If you're 12 to 17 and looking for a safe place to play some games and have some hot chocolate, this is in the Rogie Suite every Wednesday at 4:15 to 5:45. The baby and toddler group is in the Rogie Suite every Friday from 2 p.m. to 3:30. Suggested donations of €5. Parents, grandparents, carers and guardians are all welcome. We have the seafront strollers on every Tuesday at 12 p.m. with John and Thursday at 4 p.m. with Teresa. This is a chat and a stroll around the promenade and then back to the centre for tea and coffee. Self-defence course for women in the centre every Tuesday at 6:30 with Chris. If you would like to learn more, please call him on 087 77 64 625. If you are remote working and living in Bundoran or the surrounding area and would like to take advantage of our voucher scheme, please visit connectedhubs.ie, call into the centre to have a tour or to book in to our co-work space. Are you looking for work and need help with your CV, interview preparations or filling in the applications? The RES Outreach will be here in the Community Centre on Friday the 4th of November at 12:30 to 2:30. Leathercraft course with Richie here in the Community Centre every Thursday at 2 p.m. If you are interested, please call him on 085 77 49 649. Due to a demand of our food cloud, the collection is only every Tuesday and Friday at 2 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. It's only one collection per family.
Teresa, thank you. We'll talk to you again next week here on the Bundoran Weekly. That is going to do it for our podcast for this week. Thanks to Val O'Kelly and Anthony Begley for joining me on the episode for this week to tell us all about Where the Erne and the Drows Meet the Sea book, which, as I said, is launching tonight at the Rogie Suite in the Bundoran Community Centre. Don't forget you can follow us wherever you're listening now, or indeed stream and download all episodes on demand at bundoranweekly.com, or indeed you can contact us at podcast@bundoranweekly.com and find us on Facebook and Twitter at Bundoran Weekly. Don't forget to tag your photographs on Instagram as well with the hashtag #DiscoverBundoran for your chance to be featured on our feed. And if you're using Instagram stories, then search for Bundoran. We've got some cool little Instagram giffies there for you, some Bundoran giffies that you can use to brighten up your stories as you publish them from Bundoran. Bundoran. That is going to do it. Do have a great week. Have a safe one. We will talk to you again next Friday. Good luck.
The Bundoran Weekly is a production of Discover Bundoran.
The Bundoran Weekly is brought to you by AIB, supporting local businesses in Bundoran. For more, see aib.ie.